Hi, I'm Eddie McBride, President and CEO of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, and it's a great opportunity for us to get back together again today with our Member Focus Series. And with us today is Russ Horn, the President of CoNetrix, and we have a great opportunity to learn more about what his industry is surviving through COVID as well as providing for businesses today. So Russ, let's start off by getting you to tell us a little bit about CoNetrix and also yourself.
Thanks, Eddie. And it's great to be here, and it's great to be back in person again, right? Community, we need that. And even though, I love technology, and it's been great how we've been able to use technology through COVID to let a lot of small businesses and organizations thrive even, or survive. CoNetrix is based here in Lubbock, Texas. And we're actually a family of technology companies. We have 4 different companies under our umbrella. The one that we were founded with is called AccountingWare, and it is an accounting software package. We have CoNetrix Security that does information and cybersecurity work primarily for banks and credit unions. We have Tandem, which is a software solution for security and compliance primarily for banks. And then CoNetrix Technology, and that's what we'll talk about more today, which is our IT consulting or managed services company. So they're like your IT partner.
Well, and it's great to have you all on board, not only as a partner and a member of the Chamber, but obviously the opportunity for us to talk and work together today as well. Russ, thank you very much. How many employees do you claim in any of the 4 or all the 4 divisions?
Yeah, so we have about 120 employees total within our companies. Each one has roughly 25 or 30, so they're spread pretty evenly.
Well, it's great to have all y'all, and just think of all that ching-ching that y'all offer our community as well, so we're really glad about that. So obviously it's been a year since the lockdown and all the problems occurred as far as what the COVID-19 pandemic has done to us. So tell us, if you would, what changes do you think that the businesses have experienced, and especially in the technology world, as far as COVID?
Sure. Most companies or even organizations or nonprofits, think about schools. Most of the people I've talked to have said that because of COVID, they have leaped 5 or 10 years in advancement with technology because they've been forced to. We had to learn how to work together and communicate instead of on paper and by shaking hands virtually. Yeah. So we learned what Zoom was, and now it's like the Coke brand name for video conferencing, and we learned how to work from home. But those things did bring some challenges, but I think a lot of that stuff is going to stick with us now, and I think our future using technology is going to be is going to provide us some great opportunities.
Well, one of the things I know for sure from the folks that I've talked to and what you've been able to do is the entrepreneur nature of businesses, and is the way that they've had to shift and transition. You and your team have done a great job at helping foster that as well. So I appreciate everything that y'all have learned and done for our businesses and our, just the technology advancing forward and everything. It's been great. 1/3, a national poll has been recently announced that over 1/3 of the people who are ready to go back to work say they don't want to go back to work.
Yeah.
Another 1/3 says that they just as soon work from home. So it's going to be interesting to see how businesses adapt to that and include additional technology to support that. So I know y'all are on the cutting edge of that, so thank you very much for that. What is just one best practice that every small business owner should do this year that would greatly increase the cybersecurity in their organization? And that's us included.
Yeah. Eddie, I love that question. And you get that a lot of times. What's one or what's 2 things that you can do? Right now we've got all the basketball games going on with March Madness. And I think to basketball, and when you ask a coach, what's one thing we could do better? A lot of times they're like, well, go back to the fundamentals. And so if you said 3 or 4, I would have said the fundamentals of, patch management, cyber attacks. They exploit a vulnerability where there's already a known patch and it just hadn't been applied. Or administrative controls, managing our administrative controls, because that's how you get the access. Or monitoring, so intrusion detection and seeing, but the monitoring of your network. And I would go to those if you said 3 or 4, but you said 1. So I think really if it was just boiled down to 1, I would say get someone to come in and do a cybersecurity review or an analysis of where you are, because I think that's what most small businesses they don't know. They just don't know what their technology is. They don't know where they have gaps. They didn't know that that server wasn't patched. They didn't know that their IT guy wasn't doing this or their vendor wasn't doing this. And so I think a small thing you could do is hire an expert or an outside person to come in to look at all of your systems, to look at your business model, to figure out what you have and give you a report. And likely that report will end up with 2 or 3 different high-risk areas that would be low cost that you could do quickly to improve your security.
No, and how important, because as we've gone through COVID and so much more online sales, especially the small retail folks who before might not have ever even worried about getting hacked because they might not have had as much access and everything. And that's a perfect suggestion for those small businesses where they might not be able to hire somebody full-time or contractually, but at least have somebody come in and check them out and let them know that. And I think y'all offer that inspection, if you will, to maybe not only include them that one time, but hopefully partner. You can trust them. They get to trust y'all so much that obviously you get to be hired full-time. So I think that's a great opportunity.
Definitely.
What are some of the major changes happening in technology right now, and how should a small business owner, like I just mentioned, how should they prepare for those changes?
You know, there's been a big change. The cloud, we've all talked about it for the last about 5 years, that I think has greatly impacted from a positive, and there's some negative, for small businesses. If you think 5 years ago, if I started a business and had 5 or 50 employees, I would have a huge capital cost for my technology. Just thinking about one example, which is email, I'd have to go out and buy a big physical server that would be expensive, licensing that isn't based on how many employees I have, so I'd be paying the same amount as someone that had, 100,000 employees, and this huge capital expense. But today, because of the cloud and because really technology has changed a little bit from this capital expense to a model that's more like a utility bill. I pay monthly based on my usage. Then I can use Office 365, for example, and just pay for my 5 employees, and if I add one, I pay for the 6th one. If I lose one, I go back to 5. But that change is fundamentally changing technology. It's now affordable and usable by anyone.
Oh, and it's just amazing how folks can expand their, even when you get into social media and stuff, as far as what you connect with that, as far as and all the protections they'll need and everything, because there's so much business that is being done, not just in the cloud, but also the social media.
Yeah.
So help them get that opportunity. So should a small business hire someone to manage their IT, or should they outsource? What are the pros and cons for each approach?
Great question. And I actually think I would choose the third option, which is a hybrid. And so, I think I'm going to take a really simplistic discussion here. In my house, if a breaker flips, I don't want to have to call an electrician for that. I want to know enough to be able to walk into the wherever my breaker box is, open it and check them and flip one back and get my electricity back and keep going. But if I have a major issue, I don't want to mess with that. I want to bring in an expert. But I don't want to pay that expert all the time. So I think for small businesses, that mixture, I think you need to have someone on your team that has a technology bent, that enjoys and has a passion for technology, that can do a lot of the small stuff for you, and that can know this is where we're going with our business, and that then can manage that relationship with a partner. But because technology is so complicated, and because there's so much risk with it from a cybersecurity standpoint, and so much potential value, and if you do it right, saving you lots of money and efficiency, I think you need that partner also.
And what an outstanding example, so realistic, because I think that analogy is perfect to what we actually experience in our workplace, so that's really good. Why would a company consider using CoNetrix for their IT support? which I'm really wanting everybody to understand that because of the partnership we have. I think it's so easy for us to recommend y'all to anybody.
Well, I really do appreciate that, and I appreciate you letting me share why we think we stand out. And we are an IT company, so we partner to solve your IT problems. But I think what sets CoNetrix apart is that our sister company is CoNetrix Security, and does, they'll do 400 or so IT audits and pen tests on banks. We do cybersecurity work in an area that cybersecurity is very important with, and that has bled into our technology services. So while our focus is making sure your technology is stable and is providing you value and helping you be more efficient, we do it all from a security standpoint. And I think that's unique for an IT service provider to have that security focus. And so I think a lot of companies really appreciate that about us.
Well, and having y'all available and having y'all, as businesses grow in Lubbock and as businesses actually expand their footprint they're here with already, it's going to be great to have y'all to consider to be able to do that. So Russ, thank you very much for this, to do this. And not only thank you for what you're doing for members of our community, but thank you for your membership and your partnership with the Chamber. So thank you for joining me today, and I certainly look forward to sharing this opportunity with many of our members. So thank you, Russ.
Well, thank you, Eddie, and we really appreciate the Chamber and the opportunities the Chamber has given us and what you guys do for the community.
We have been in business for 12 years. Right after we purchased the company, we hired CoNetrix to help us. For us, IT is everything. My employees can't work if we don't have access to our server and the internet. I don't have the budget available for a full-time person to manage our IT. They would also have to be doing medical billing and follow-up and coding to be a part of our team. So it makes sense for us to outsource that. Knowing that all of our data is stored securely, that I can just trust CoNetrix to do that for me, is super important.